Well, we will start on time, 20 past 3. I'm going to set the presentation. Listen, we are used to chatting on a chat. That's why, that's the reason, that's the way I'd like you to interact with us. Hi, Marie-Claude. Hello, Marie-Claude. Véronique, the question about the badges. At the end of this workshop, there's a last slide with a link. And if you don't mind, I need you could put it in the chat at the end. Yes, no problem at all. Otherwise, I'll share. And I entered the link to the badge in the slide, so we'll be able to find it again. Hi, Martine. It's nice of you to be here. Are you going to be with us throughout the whole presentation? No, Veronique. Were you with me and Marie-Soleil? Great. Did we exchange emails? Can you send me an email? I'll send you the procedure. I'll put it right here. Do you want to try to put it online right away? If it doesn't work, we should know beforehand. Yes, the first thing to do with a badge is to create an account. If you're not logged on to Campus Récit, it's not going to work. So your account needs to be, you need to be logged into your account already, and then you can get in there. Well, the badges will be sort of set free when the workshop is over. You cannot obtain a badge of a workshop you haven't attended. So the badges are sort of detained until the end of the workshop. You cannot access them until the end. There we go. So meanwhile, if you want to log in either with your phone, I like playing while we do it. Yes. That's why at the movie theater they tell you you can use your phone before the movie and you can guess who plays in which film. But this is more interactive. You cannot create an account without the authorization of the administrator. That's strange. It seems to me that the first time you log in, because usually when you have an account, a school account, I don't know if you have a school email address, it should work immediately. I didn't have to provide the approval of my administrator. I'm looking in my screenshots. If it's the first time you log in, between choosing the Microsoft link and using their link, you need to identify the school organization, then accept both policies, that is user conditions and confidentiality conditions, and then you'll be able to log in. That would be the steps you need to go through. Somebody wrote in the chat that indeed, yes, you've anticipated that you will use the clap for the question game, and you can use the QR code. You don't need an account. Otherwise, you use the triple W, the address we've posted, yes. wooclap.com/jeune with an S, ETMS. So it is 20 past already. Can you refresh your page, please? Me? Yes, you. The refresh the presentation. I saw the procedure at the end when we start off. Everything's gonna be there. Hi, Brigitte. Hi again. Welcome. Exactly. You need to be logged into your account for this to work. And when we log in for the first time, we need to identify our school organization and accept the use policies. It's very important for this to work. Excuse me. If everyone's ready, we have 286 participants. Oh, we have 1 minute left. I like taking my time. Oh, yeah, I have 21 past on my clock. We can start. Brigitte says that you need to have your Récit account. I must recognize that I don't know. I knew it was 19 past. It's my computer that's a bit ahead of schedule. Yes, my computer is not reliable. Now it'll start as if we were on TV. You'll see 100 people. I think we've never had that many people in our iClap. It's quite exciting. I'm ready. I've got my iClap. I like playing this game. Great. Let's begin. We could post the web address once again in the chat. I'll do it. You can log into the clap. It'll make the presentation more interactive because it's a questions game. It's like a quiz. Can I do this? Good. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to this training called Social Media, Young People and Social Media, Beyond the Preconceptions. As you can see on your screen, we've asked you a first question in WooClap. How many accounts do you have in social media? Now we're imagining, okay, counting Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And what is social media? WhatsApp, is that social media? YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok? How many do you have now? So we are around 2 to 3. 48% of respondents have said 2 to 3. I can understand that WhatsApp is mitigated, but Pinterest, in my opinion, that it clearly counts as social media. 6 and up, not able to count, not able to count. Too many to count. Okay, that's 2% of the respondents, but still. If you use your phones, don't forget to validate, otherwise your responses won't go through. A lot of people saying 2, 3, that seems to be the majority, but that's closely followed by 4, 5. It's close. So when you think about it with your professional accounts, let's say Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, that's already 3, Twitter, you're at 4 now with your professional accounts. And if you integrate all the teams, that's integrated all the teams, conversations, the channels. If you count the channels, I think we are more at 7 than anything else. 7 has just won the war here. Kim, you're sharing a link. I'm very curious. So this is the definition of social media. Oh, thank you. I'm going to keep that open and close by. Thank you for this share. Are we ready to move on to the next step? So as I said, welcome to this training. My name is Annie Turbide. I am a pedagogical counselor at the National Service of the Récit. Our mandate is to support the network in the integration of digital solutions in the ECR and to develop digital citizenship or citizenship at the digital era. We have many other mandates, but this is our main mandate. I was a teacher for about 15 years in the Quebec region. I've quit 5 years ago. I've been a pedagogical counselor for 3 years in this wonderful Récit team. Jérôme, my name is Jérôme. I was a teacher around 2 years on the south shore of Montreal in Longueuil at the school service center. I'll need 10 years to forget that it's not a school board anymore. The Marie Victorin School Service Center. I integrated the Récit in February. Zia, when you see you can't see the shared info, can you see you can't see the screen we're sharing, or you don't see the comments of the people who are writing in the chat? Because I'm going to repeat myself. We'd like you to interact in the chat rather than in the questions and answers module, because that's what we'll focus on, the chat. Yes, because the link was sent only to the panelists. Because sometimes you need to click on send to everyone. Otherwise, only panelists will receive the link. Yes, exactly. So everyone who's host and panelist, please select everyone when you answer. You'll have access to the chat as well. Let's begin. Our intention today is to shed light on various facts and myths that are proposed by the in society on the use of social media by youth, and we will explore various possible activities and to take advantage of these issues so that when we address social media with young people and older people, so that we have more information and we can better interact with them, intervene. Obviously, for those of you who have already attended one of our workshops today, you might find that some things are similar here, but we hope that you'll still get more information in your toolbox by the end of the day. We haven't talked about this yet, but on sitnum.ca, there are recent recent folders. This is pre-classified and pre-digested information that gives you access to all that makes all the documentation on social media accessible to you. It is to keep you informed, and it gives you things you could reuse in classes. So if it's a topic you don't want to delve deeper into, sitnum.ca/media socio. So social media have been around for some time, but it's worth going back to the beginning of this history. So the first social media platform that has appeared that is still in existence today is Facebook, founded in 2004. Then things developed quite quickly. YouTube to 2005, Twitter in 2006. The iPhone was created in 2000, launched in 2007, which gave us mobile access to these social media, allowing social media to follow us in our day-to-day life much easier than through a computer. Then WhatsApp 2009, Instagram founded in 2010, Snapchat 2011, and the most recent one that is now assaulting the youth with success, TikTok in 2016. And since then, we've seen the development of AI accelerating and coming into interaction with these various social media platforms. Yes, Marc-André, sorry, we haven't mentioned ICQ and MIRC. We will we will improve. We'll do that next. So we are often using our phones to access social media. That's why we wanted to give you a few facts. For starters, a typical user will touch their screen on average 2,617 times per day, a bit more today for you. And the 10% of the people using it more that can touch their screen up to 5,400 times per day. So sometimes when we say, clean your phone to avoid bacteria, this is understandable. We see how this can happen. 490 million new users came around 2020, new users of social media. So it is not a phenomenon that is dwindling. On the contrary, we have an exponential growth in the amount of users. We also see that on average, things evolve fast. This means we have 15.5 new users every second. So a lot of people will join social media by the end of this presentation. And we need between 3 and 7 minutes to view our notifications. We'll get back to this when we talk about attention time and attention span, but we are quite active when we answer our notifications. And if we compare things. It's interesting to see that we spend a bit more time
devant la télévision que
today,
l'écran
on average, in front of TV than in front of social media. TV, it's on average 2 hours 48 minutes per day. So people watch,
2h25
Family Matters more every day, and it's around 2 hours 25 minutes that we are in front of our social media per day. This next statistics is quite particular because we've measured the distance that our fingers make when we scroll on our screens. That gives us 93 meters covered by our fingers every day. That is the Statue of Liberty that we are covering with our fingers every day. 93 meters. When you say we, are you including all ages? Yes, these statistics are general on the use of a telephone. And now we'll focus in the next slides on grade school and secondary school in terms of use. Gabriel, yes, we will send you the link to download this. It is on the site of digital education. I'll take care of that right away. So in grade school, elementary school, most popular activity among elementary school children, the most popular is to play online alone or with friends. That's interesting because in the past when we played on these devices, we played alone. Now with online games, there are youth children saying it's a lot of fun being with you in your home, but it's much more fun playing each in our homes online together. It's more interactive. So that's a new definition of collaboration and of playing together. The second statistics, viewing series or films on the internet, viewing websites or leisure websites. These are interesting statistics. Obviously, the pandemic had a strong impact on this last category. Communicating by video is 40%. Yes. Now, for a secondary or high school students, we don't see much of a difference here, other than the fact that the percentage increases because more secondary or high school students have access to these devices. So they play online with friends, they view series and films, go on leisure sites, and they have an extra category that is sending text messages instead of videos. And then another one added, which is using social media. Starting in high school, 64% of them use their phones mainly for social media. But in the end, what do we know about these social media? This is where things begin. I'm going to ask you to go back to WooClap, take your phone or any device or platform you want to use and answer a question. The first one is, what is the percentage of youth having a problem with social media, who are cyber dependent, social media dependent? What percentage have an addiction to social media? Yes, I'm going to send you the link to the presentation. Oh, we see the answers coming in. 72. So 202 are on WooClap. 202 participants on WooClap right now. This is great. So between 10 and 20% would say, without leading too much, all addicted. This is 10% of respondents. 26% say between 5 and 10% of youth have an addiction problem to social media, and less than 7% say less than 5% too. So the average is around four. Answer four. I would be surprised that we would have a challenger here. So I like commenting WooClap instead of commenting horse races. So no. Inaudible. So the right answer, drum roll. So what percentage of youth have an addiction to social media? Less than 5%. That's the truth. That's the real answer. Now, what does that mean? Less than 5%. Why is it not more or less? Was this not fake news? Why are they not all addicted? So, well, good news. This is good news. Yannick is writing. Good news in the chat. You're
En
right.
fait, là, l'enjeu
So
principal, il ne faut pas
the main
oublier, c'est
issue,
que
the reason why we say less than 5% of youth are addicted to social media, that's the difference
je
between
vais te donner un exemple
addiction
vraiment
and
concret.
excess. I'll give you a very
Si
personal
je commence
example.
avec les chiffres
If you give me
et je
an
vois
open bag of
qu'il y a de
chips,
grandes chances que je le
we
finisse,
put it in front
j'ai
of
des
me,
problèmes
there are high chances that I will have auto control
avec mon
problems
sac de chips.
with
Mais
this bag of
je
chips.
ne me réveille pas la nuit pour
But
aller
I
chercher.
won't wake up at night looking for a bag of chips.
Des fois,
And I'll be disappointed sometimes when I don't have one, but I'm not addicted
après
to
ça,
chips.
est-ce qu'on peut, c'est un peu la même chose pour les
Now,
médias
it's the
sociaux?
same thing with
Oui,
social
est-ce
media. Can we
qu'on fait un usage
find that
excessif?
youth
Ça se peut.
use it
Je pense
excessively?
qu'il
It's possible.
y en a beaucoup qui passent peut-être trop de temps
And
chaque fois sur
maybe
les réseaux
some of them
sociaux qui
spend
s'en
too much
déconnectent
time
trop.
in social media or
Ça se peut aussi, là,
thinking too
mais
much
ça
about
va
it.
nuire
That's possible.
grandement à leur
Will it
qualité de vie,
truly
en ferait une dépendance.
be detrimental to their life quality
Trop
as
de temps à
to
l'écran.
becoming an addiction, such as
C'est
uh,
sûr que quand, ou à l'alcool, quand on regarde
money
des gens qui
games
ont une
would?
dépendance, on se rend compte que c'est peut-être un petit
So
peu
it's the same thing with
exagéré.
alcohol. When we
Donc, il faut
look
la
at
garder en tête.
uh,
La
addiction, saying it's an
différenciation
addiction would be
professionnelle et
excessive.
en ligne,
The
c'est
other
vraiment
factor is integration to
pour
the
l'entendre.
real life versus
Ça
the
devient aussi
life online. It becomes a medium to
les
communicate
jeunes
in
sont,
their
les
real
jeunes
life.
sont moins sur Facebook,
The younger
mais
ones are less on
nous,
Facebook,
comme
but
adultes, souvent, on va
as
consommer leur contenu
adults,
de
we
moins en
often
moins
look at
organisé
Facebook events. We
sur
watch
Facebook.
Facebook
Donc,
live events.
malgré,
We organize activities
malgré
with that. So it becomes part of your
dans la vie
life,
réelle, puis on va se
your
concentrer
real
sur
life that
des
is not
choses
online.
effectives.
Well, it is online, but it's part of your real life. We use it to organize activities, and it can be a tool to know what
C'est pour
our
ça qu'on dit,
friends are
on
doing.
fait la distinction entre
So
dépendance et
that's the
excès.
distinction between
Il y a même
addiction and
un
excess.
psychologue dont j'ai oublié le nom qui est venu
A
à un
psychologist
balado. Si vous êtes
whose name I
intéressé
heard
par
came
la
to our
science des patates chaudes,
to
on dit aussi
our
patate chaude.
podcast
C'est
called
pas juste
Hot
intéressant
Potato,
les jeunes
and
qui
we said the same thing. She
des
says that
consoles de jeux vidéo,
youth who
sensibles
have
aux
an
écrans, c'est
addiction
environ
to
3%.
screens, that's
C'est
around
vraiment
2
très
and
limité.
3% of them. What's interesting in that study, what it shows when we ask people, do you think that you have a problem with managing your screen time or your phone? The answer is that 30% of youths consider that they do have that problem, while the real problem or the definition of addiction uh, is pertaining to less than 5% of the population. So it's a matter of definition of what a problem is. So this 5%, yes, they are addicted, yes, but it says in any excess with Jerome's chip addiction. I just shared the link. Can you see it? I will post it again. So screen time, this hot potato on Sitnam. Magali Dufour created this initiative, and she's a psychologist. And Normand Landry, who is director of the research chair in education to media and human rights. So it's a good distinction. Why is screen time this hot potato?
Donc, deuxième question,
So the second question, no, we have activities we need to share. So if you want to work on screen time with your students in elementary school, we propose Matart numérique, and in secondary school, high school, le temps d'écran, cette patate chaude, this hot potato. So my digital pie in elementary school and screen time, hot potato in high school. So the goal is not to tell them if you play online it's wrong, but we will reflect with them what it's used for, what social media is used for, and give them challenges and stuff like that. So Catherine, activity is only in French for now. Yes, that's right. So of course eventually we want to publish all of that in English as well. Great, Kim, if you've received the link, that's great. So activities that are available on the sitnum.ca site, and we are ready for the next question.
autre question hautement polémique. Est-ce que les
Another
médias sociaux
highly polemic question. Do social media cause anxiety among young people? Now, horse races. Go ahead, Jerome. So Brigitte says, we always have 2 or 3 students per class where the social media are a problem for their learning process. But to get back to what we said earlier, it can be excessive use that is detrimental. It doesn't mean that it's an addiction.
sur toutes les sphères de sa vie. Est-ce qu'Annie, tu pourrais remettre le lien au clap? Donc, c'est le moment des courses de chevaux. Les médias sociaux causent beaucoup d'anxiété chez
Or
les
that'll be
jeunes.
detrimental to their
On voit que c'est quand va-tu faire le plus vite?
They're
Donc,
learning. So we see that
troubles d'anxiété pour la majorité des jeunes,
so social media
mais
causes a lot of
la
anxiety to a
réponse,
low percentage of you. That's the most chosen answer. We see that
on sent que c'est
number
c'est
four,
pas vrai.
media, social media do not cause any
Donc, le taux
anxiety
d'anxiété
for
pour un test
young
de sommeil
people. Nobody
abordable,
answered that. And number
donc
five, answer
l'université
five was
d'Ottawa.
it's
Ils ont
quite
dit ça
complicated. So we have 7% of respondents choosing that
définitivement, ça va être
answer.
ça de
And
Là, je pense que
definitely number three
j'aurais
is
jamais
the
deviné
favorite
lequel j'aurais
answer.
répondu.
Now I'll give you a challenge. Choose my answer.
Hey,
You
non.
chose four.
C'est en
No,
J'aimerais ça en avoir un, mais c'est parce que pour
no,
connaître les réponses, je prendrais
but I'd like to
celui
know
qui va être
the
le plus
real
facile.
answer.
C'est juste la projection.
So
Donc,
this is just
numéro un,
projection. So
clairement,
number
oui, mais
three
le
is
gagnant,
the
ça, c'est
favorite, but is it the real, the true
et
answer?
oui,
Yes, it is.
c'est le gagnant.
So
Et
the
je vais vous
answer
dire
is
pourquoi.
the social media.
OK, bravo.
Yes,
Donc,
well, we'll explain why.
effectivement, les médias sociaux vont
Social
causer
media
de l'anxiété chez les jeunes, mais
causes
dans un
anxiety
relativement
among young
faible
people
pourcentage. Ça
to,
s'explique
however, a
parce
relatively
que
low
les
percentage. That
différentes
is explained by the
études
fact that
montrent que
various studies show that
tous les risques finalement liés à une
all
surutilisation
risks
des médias
related
sociaux
to
vont augmenter
an
l'usage
excessive use
retardé
of social media
et
will
étant rendu
increase
à
with use.
plus de
When
4
we
heures
get to
et
more
les
than
risques
4 hours,
ce sont des risques élevés finalement. Donc,
the risk is
c'est 5
high.
heures, hein, Jérôme, par jour.
Or 5 hours per
5
day,
minutes comme
right?
cours.
Between 4 and 5 hours per
Sont
day,
très
the
élevés.
risk
Ce qui est à
of
noter
developing
aussi, c'est
anxiety is
qu'il
high. What you
y
need
a
to
une
know as
liaison
well is that, yes, it is
indépendante
interesting,
d'anxiété et
Jenny, there's a
d'addiction.
relationship between
Donc, on
addiction
se
and
demande
anxiety.
quelle est la corrélation
So, what is the
entre ces deux
correlation
phénomènes.
between these two
Et
phenomenons,
d'autre
first of
part,
all?
c'est que
And
si
second of all,
l'utilisation, ben oui, est
an
très élevée,
excessive
c'est
use or
facile
a
à
very
voir,
high
peut
use
augmenter les autres
can
facteurs de risque
get other risk
liés à
factors to
l'anxiété. Et là,
increase,
vous
factors
l'auriez,
that
par
are
exemple,
related to anxiety. For example,
par exemple, le manque de sommeil, parce que
solitude
quand on passe
or lack of sleep, because when we
un très
spend
grand nombre d'heures
a
sur
huge amount of
Internet ou à
hours
être sur les médias sociaux, on se
on
dit qu'il faut dormir.
social media
Et
or
un
reading,
sentiment
well, you have
constant
to sleep.
d'insatisfaction
And there's a
devient
feeling of
déterminant finalement là,
insatisfaction
ces
because
médias
of the
sociaux
content of some
vont
social
présenter.
media
Attention
and
par
what they
contre,
present.
c'est quand même,
However, be careful.
faut nuancer ces
We
chiffres-là
need to
parce que
nuance
souvent
these
ça vient,
figures
là vous allez le
because
voir dans le bas, dans
sometimes,
les
and
questions
you'll see
indépendantes
this
de
further down
motivation
the
soit,
line when we talk
ça
about
vient
the
dans une
uh,
utilisation qui est
the
plus,
image we have of ourselves
on va
or
dire
what the person
contrôlée ou
thinks of
basse.
themselves
Ça peut
in a more controlled or
contrebalancer au
low
contraire
proportion. It can
des moments de solitude que
bridge
quand on est
gaps
dans un
or,
remplissage
well, not fill
enflé dans le sens
gaps,
je
but
vais aller chercher du relationnel avec
fulfill
ces
a
médias-là,
relationship
il y a une
need
certaine compréhension
with that.
aussi
And there's
des contenus par rapport à l'insatisfaction qui fait en
we
sorte
understand that some
qu'on
content
laisse
will
dégager
create
parce que
insatisfaction, but that means
voilà.
people are able
Puis pour
to sort of
ajouter sur ce
take a
qu'Annie vient de
distance
dire,
from social
quand on
media.
regarde les courbes justement qui lient
When we
l'anxiété à
look at
l'utilisation des
the
médias sociaux,
correlation
on voit
between
quand même
anxiety and social media, we see that below
zéro puis une
or
heure,
between
entre
0 and 1 hour
et deux, ça commence à
or
descendre
even
un
two
peu, puis
hours,
ça fait comme un gap de 10 à
anxiety
20.
can
Donc,
actually
les gens qui ont
lower.
ces
So people who seem to use
générations vivent moins
social media
avec
a year and an
les
hour and a half
études
per
disent
day or have less anxiety than people who don't use
une
it
heure et demie, ça peut être
much. And we see that after an hour and a half seems to be
les
optimal.
contrôleurs de temps
So if you
d'écran
want
aiment ça.
to
Puis
set
à
a
long, puis là, effectivement,
screen
comme
time
on
control,
regarde les
take
anxiétés,
note of
ben,
that,
les gens vont flasher.
and then the anxiety
Donc,
increases quite
effectivement,
fast
à quel âge
when you
devrait
reach
commencer
5 hours.
les réseaux
So
sociaux?
at what age
Les réseaux
should
sociaux
social
ont
media
des
begin?
âges
So
minimales.
most social media have a minimum age to be a
Donc,
member.
13 ans en général.
In general, it's
Par
13
contre,
years old.
c'est
However,
pédagogique. Ça peut
as
pas dire qu'on va amener les jeunes sur
a
les
teacher,
médias,
it
mais
doesn't
ça
mean we
doit
will
être une
bring
réflexion
youth,
quand même
young people to
sur
social media, but
les
still
différents
reflect with them
mécanismes,
on
les
the various
neurones qu'on retrouve,
mechanisms,
la biologie
phenomenons,
derrière le
to
média social
understand
pour
algorithms
aborder ces
behind social
sujets-là.
media,
La plupart des
the
médias sociaux offrent
suggestions they make,
un début d'exploration, on va dire,
and
avec les jeunes, sans nécessairement
advertising. So it can be the beginning of a reflection you have
prendre
with
pour acquis qu'ils y sont et
students
non plus
without
projeter
taking for granted
une
that they are
certaine
there, but without taking for
donc,
granted that they're not there either.
voilà, j'essaie de lire tous les
I'm
commentaires.
trying to
Il y a
read
aussi
all the
Brigitte,
comments.
mettons, qui dit
Also,
les
Brigitte is
réflexions
saying, is it
d'intensité, ça leur
possible
cause de l'anxiété sans qu'ils soient conscients de l'impact.
for them to be to have anxiety without
Ça se peut.
being conscious of the
Dans les études que
impact?
nous, on a
It's
trouvées, c'était
possible. In
soit
this, most of the
les gens
studies we found, it was either
qui s'auto-rapportaient, là, ils répondaient à des
people
sondages,
who answered
ou sinon,
surveys
des gens qui se rendaient
the,
aller chez un psy.
when
Le lien n'était pas toujours fait, mais après ça,
people
ça
had
se
to
peut qu'ils en soient pas conscients.
to see a psychologist. Maybe there was not yet a link between that and anxiety. And we'll talk about text messages and attention later on, but we understand that these things are can be disturbing. And about the risks, oftentimes when they spend more than 5 hours per day, we see more risks, and that is a concern. The good news, though, is that it is demonstrated that when we decrease the screen time, the symptoms of anxiety diminish as well. So knowing that gives us the power to act. You'll say it's easy to say, but not so easy to apply. Yes, but with help and a regulation process, we're able to have
Pas de
control.
dommage permanent, là.
It's not permanent
C'est
damage.
pas comme un choc post. C'est sûr
It's
qu'il y a
not
des choses que tu peux
like
régler,
a
puis d'autres
post
affaires qui peuvent te rester, mais c'est pas un choc
traumatic
post-traumatique.
shock. Yes, you are summarizing my all my sentences in one sentence. Next question. Did we talk about activities? No. So two activities to work about social media. One in elementary school on emotions. So it might not cover what we said specifically, but it will develop some skills that will be useful because you were in grade school, in elementary school, but they will be useful when we arrive in this great world of social media. And in high school, ambivalence in social media, we will here reflect on the various dilemmas that we're faced with related to social media. They are on sitnum.ca. Next question. And it is said sometimes that while an hour and a half is beneficial, I mean, should everybody spend at least an hour and a half on social media? No. Do social media make young people more materialistic? First of all, it's the influencer's fault. Second of all, it's multifactorial. Three, they are just as materialistic. Four, they are less materialistic. And five, all of that is quite vague. So we feel that more people have chosen it's multifactorial, but they are just as materialistic anyways. Number three is the runner-up here. Etienne, I saw your message. Yeah, we can discuss that at the end. So they are more materialistic, but it's multifactorial. Is that the true answer? So they are just as materialistic. Or number three and number five, all that is very vague. Let's find the real answer. Do social media make young people more materialistic? It's difficult to know. And one of the main reasons for that is that our attachment to material objects is related to our life cycle. When we're young, we have less money. This is psychological mechanism. When we have less of something, we value it less because we want to focus on the positive aspects of our life. So oftentimes young people have a tendency to say that material is less important. Also, there's an influence from the environment. People who have lived in an environment where they lacked money will find security in material. So material things will become more important than for people who never lacked materiality. And it changes according to the country where you live as well. But all in all, young people are just as materialistic than we were at their age. So it's like people who in the 1970s who were hippies ended up buying a house eventually. So you see that when growing up, things change. About our activities related to materialism and the availability of various products portrayed in the social media, we have no activities to propose. So if you have inspiration, if you want to develop something, don't hesitate to contact us and we will look into how we could try to feed or improve this section. Next question.
Les adolescents sont-ils réticents à mettre leur vie privée en ligne? Donc, à vos appareils, mesdames et
Are
messieurs.
youth
Très réticents.
reticent to displaying their private life online. Number one, very reticent.
Celle-là, on sent qu'il y a plus de
Number
précautions
two,
quand même. Le 2,
average. Number three, a little reticent.
c'est plus.
Number four, everything is online. Let's go. And number five, they have another
Tout est en
approach.
ligne, let's go. Quand même quelques partisans. Ils ont une autre approche.
So they have another
Sans
approach.
moyennement réticent. Ça joue dur. On va attendre encore un peu
So
parce qu'il y a des gens qui réfléchissent à leur réponse.
let's wait because some people
Ouais, on a
are
quand
waiting
même
for their answer.
248 personnes qui
We have
participent à ce week-là.
248 people taking part in this Woo collab.
Répondre. Oui, exact.
Congrats to you.
6.
6.
Et ouais, moyennement réticent a gardé quand même son avance.
So
On va voir la réponse. Et ils ont une autre approche. Mais qu'est-ce que ça veut dire?
let's look at their answer. They have another approach. What does that mean? They have another approach because in general, when it is, they will use social media more with, they will use the parameters of social media. So young people will have privacy parameters that are more important, especially in high level social media like Facebook, that is social media for the family, according to the various conceptions. So also they will develop a common language. So through this language that is coded, they'll be able to communicate among others, among themselves, without necessarily displaying their life online at large. You see the statistics on this slide. So 7 out of 10 do not display their private life on social media, and 76% have private accounts on social media, and 81% of students say that they understand the consequences of displaying publicly their information. Doesn't mean they don't do it, it means they understand displaying them online. However, there is work to be done, and this is from Statistics Canada, recent information. 38% of Canadian students said they were not able to identify phishing attempts. And the average of that is higher in the OEDC. So if we have a problem here, that's their ability to identify phishing attempts. You know, we owe you money, click here. You probably have a lot of examples, you know, things you wanted to click on, things you've clicked on probably. So we need to do work with that regard. Available activities. So in elementary school, the floor is open if you want to develop something on privacy in elementary school. That might be interesting. In high school, 3 activities. So public or private. So we help them determine what's public, what's private. In your face, in blue here, we will talk about facial recognition and Big Brother on the top right. This is on tracking applications, how they work. This activity was developed during the pandemic, so we will touch upon everything that was used throughout the applications.
Prochaine question. Les médias sociaux ont-ils un effet sur l'implication
Do social media have an effect on political implication for the youth? So yes, they only think about themselves. Oh yes, they mobilize, but in a new way. Yes, more than ever, or clearly social media depoliticized the youth. So we're at question, I forgot the number, but you should follow along in the WooClap. So in the end, the good answer seems to be picked more often. So I haven't answered yet. So number 2 and 3 seem to be popular. So every answer, so answers are still coming in. So we're going to wait a little bit because we often get close to 126 answers. So on the right, you can see the number, the amount of people that answered. So in the chat, I will share the comments in the chat.
Donc, merci de me faire découvrir le Wook
So
Lab.
thank you for showing me Wook Lab. It's a great platform, yes, of course, and it's integrated to the presentation, so we don't have to move from one software to the other. It's really interesting. Oh, and it's free, by the way, for primary and secondary and for adults as well.
C'est gratuit. Donc,
So how can we see the future of social media with the metaverse? Oh, that's another question. So the good answer is the second way. Yes, they still mobilize, but in a new way. So we will explore, just like the other question, what does this mean? So social media is used as a kind of political networking, and it gives them access to broader spheres than just their friends, people who share their same views. It also comes with interests, structures. So yes, teenagers won't mobilize themselves for big political groups and big structured groups because it's more in the network effect that they get involved. So it's more about individual interests, but it's still very political. So political involvement is still something that's important. For example, it could be a topic such as gender-specific toilets. So we know we've all seen this picture, the boys who mobilized in a private school to denounce the dressing code. We don't need to agree. However, it's political involvement in a way. It's an act, it's a symbolic act of resistance. So there was some social media involvement as well. So it's something that's very individual and precise. So concerning the activities in, as you can see, well, there's opportunity to do something for elementary school. There's still not much there. And obviously, we don't want to talk politics with elementary school children, but we just want to sow the seeds of curiosity. In secondary, however, there's the revolution activity. It's an activity which look at photographies from the Museum des Beaux-Arts of Montreal. So in places such as Iran, so we will explore social order in various ways. It's more about the first cycle of secondary. Second cycle, it's Je regarde qui paie, I'm watching, who's paying. So we're all going to talk about the impact of all these great streaming medias and what the impact is for the cultural life of a country and how with taxes will they invest or not in culture, which is relevant to this country, and how will they participate to the development. So two activities that are more targeted, but still very important to do with the youth. So in the chat, I see your interventions. That's great. Marc-André, great point. Your youth can really mobilize themselves easily outside of school. So they don't have to organize in school for this. And for the better and worse. So it can be some destructive and malicious activities. So there's some involvement that can be done. Sometimes they can group up for more malicious ways, unfortunately. So social media can be a double-edged sword. So next question, do social media increase the quality of friendships? A lot, a little, a lot, passionately, crazily, not at all. What are your answers?
fortement majoritaire avec
So there seems to be quite a few people that answers not at all.
il va gagner son élection. Ah non.
So, a little seems to gain terrain.
Plus serré à date.
Oh, it's going to be very close here. Almost equal for 1 and 5.
Toi, ça va être toi qui va trancher finalement.
So we're
OK.
going to look at the answers.
Ceux qui hésitent à participer, sachez que vous pouvez.
So if you're not participating, just know you can jump in now.
Si vous hésitez à participer, c'est la
So this is the question to get in on.
Moi, j'ai voté.
So I voted.
Tiens à te le dire.
Merci.
Thank you. Thanks for the information, Annie.
J'ai voté 4.
And I didn't vote for.
Merci de l'information et de ton intérêt.
Thank you for your interest, Annie.
115, ça semble être le chiffre
So it seems to be the magic number.
On est prêt. Donc,
So the answer is a little. Slightly increase friendship quality.
au début, vous avez vu, hein, c'est souvent dans le
And obviously there's a lot of nuance here. Same thing here.
D'une part, ça peut être un frein à donner
So
une
it could be a way to block new meetings,
ceux qui ont eu un
because if you've had a good cégep, just go back in time a little bit when you were going out. So perhaps you're in another region and you go outside during the break, and what you have to do, you have to talk and try to make new friends. However, what we see today is that because it's so easy to communicate with the phone, even if I walk outside, so for example, in Gaspésie, I'm at the Cégep in Gaspé, I can stay in contact with all my Quebec network instantly. So it could be a way to block new meetings and friendships in Gaspé. So what we see also is that for people who already have quality friendships, social media will contribute to the quality and how you can increase and improve these friendships, because it gives them a communication friendship function. Just like when you were young and you could spend the night on the phone. So it was a phone with a landline back then. So if you already had strong friendships, it won't decrease the quality. On the contrary. However, the reverse is also true. For those who had more difficulty to adapt and create friendships, it won't help them. It won't improve the quality of friendships. However, when we read that article that was published by Science Quebec, they said that it could also represent a way to create new friendships. Like Jerome said earlier, it links us to people who have the same interests as us, and it could have a validation effect. So we will share our thoughts, our experiences. We will take some moments to affirm ourselves. So it could break some form of isolation in the youth. Activities. And now you can see that the secondary level is where we have very little. So in the primary, in the elementary level, there's 4 activities from the center of Laval on their website. The 2 activities on the right, entre nous, between us and everyone else. So if we create a wall together, a class wall or whatever, when you're talking, we can decide what we're going to share. And between us, entre nous, we work on youth relationships, and it's a game similar to Loup-Garou. So the youth have some creatures they can play with, and there you go. Question: do social media make people more aggressive? Yes. That's a bit of a controversial question. Since we're almost out of time, perhaps we are going to move along quickly. So the answer is nothing, a little, a moderate amount, a lot, or Tomorrow it's civil war. So a little bit seems to be leading, given our last experiences. There's one leading answer. So we're running out of time a bit. So the right answer is nothing at all. There's no change. What does this mean? Go ahead, Annie. Social media won't make you more or less aggressive. And I bring you to the hypothesis of mismatch. It's American researchers which analyzed different interactions and relate that people who are aggressive in real life are also the same online. So it's not that they become aggressive online through the screen, but that they are already aggressive beforehand, and then you take it online as well. So it's the mismatch hypothesis. And it's also a way to take the microphone for the youth and speak out. So at this level, there's some issues as the education network. We need to tell them that they need to take a little bit of time before they post something and to make sure that they don't post anything they might regret and so on. Several people in the chat that are asking various questions. So the answers to these questions is that there's a few people who may be more affected by this, but researchers found that the vast majority of people who do heinous comments online, they're unpleasant people in real life as well. And it's mostly a way to get their heinous words out. And often these people don't want to have a discussion. They just want to be unpleasant. So that's the mismatch hypothesis. So research found that people who do these heinous comments are always like this. And it's not the format, the online format, that creates this aggressivity. It's only because if they use their unpleasantness of everyday life online by using the online means of communication. For available activities, there's some coming up in elementary and secondary. So the title is comment, the play on words on how to stop uh, how to stop heinous comments. So we'll use some public persons to talk about these issues. We hired a professional moderator as well, which is what is an editorial line? How can we signal comments? How can we hide comments and answer comments? So we'll try to give the youths the abilities that will allow them to properly discern and moderate comments on their own. What is hatred? What is constructive discussion? And so on. Just working on the intent behind the comments. So it's not quite done yet. It's coming up later on. No pressure for the deadline. Are social media negative for attention and concentration? Strong negative impact, small negative impact, no impact at all, or depending on the usage. We feel that a strong negative impact. There are several answers which seem to be debatable here. So I think we might see quite a bit of people are answering here, depending on the use. Seems to be the winner. Let's see. Yes, that's the right answer. It depends how you use it. So what does this mean? So first thing we noticed is that it's no better or worse than before. However, the attention is split sometimes. So you can try to think in multiple language together. It might be that you'll end up with a jumble sentence. So it's really a bit of a late attention span, but it's not very productive for attention to do multiple things at the same time. And it can diminish concentration if you keep alternating between different tasks. Another issue is the proximity because your phone is always close by. So it's easy to access. So proximity to cell phones can decrease attention. And there was a study that was done with adults that had some mathematical tasks. And if they had their cell on the desk or in their backpack or on the desk in the front of the class, or if there's no cell in the room at all. And then what they realized was that the proximity of the cell phone was a distraction. And the farther the phone, the better the performance because of that distraction factor. So if you're thinking about something else, it can distract you. And it reduced performance. Very interesting. Brigitte says, sometimes if you use it properly, it can even improve concentration. Yes, there are some ways in which it can be done. For example, hiding notifications and so on. So we have power over these distractions. So in the chat, I'm going to put a little something here. Part of the podcast was its name, The Illusion of Multitasking. Why do we believe in it? And several people talk about this on the podcast. If you're interested, you can listen. So, while we're talking about multitasking and the difficulties that we can have to muster up attention, it usually takes 23 minutes to get your efficiency back after a distraction. So we can see that if it takes 3 minutes every 10 minutes, if we're constantly on our cell, it'd be extremely hard to focus deeply. That's why it's so important to manage our notifications and so on. Yes, exactly. And the youth are pretty good with that. They can be made to participate on how to manage these parameters. And it does a beautiful community when we think about it together. Very interesting stuff. Next question. I think we have only a few minutes left. So we don't have any activities available for this quite yet. Since they're digital natives, do the youth know how social media work mechanically? Do they know how it works? Yes, of course, depends on the youth. Sometimes they're good to do some research or not. And in fifth answer, we have, oh, they're better than me. Are the images clickable in the documents? Usually they should be. Unless there's a problem, they should be clickable. Otherwise, the activities are all in there as well. So I will propose that we click in because the room will close soon. So it really depends on the youth. So point three, it completely depends on the individual, depending on how they grew up and where they learned about this. It really depends on the youth. So, for example, the scholarity level of the parents, it'll have a strong impact on their digital skills, the reference that they have, the references that they have, access to tools, and so on. So we can't do a general sway here. It's really on a case-by-case basis. And now they're going to learn by playing with these tools. since it's easy to communicate, they have a sense of community and they're going to help each other out to discover these parameters. And that's why we usually say they're experimenters. So, oh, I found this trick, or and then you share it with the other people and try to build upon this knowledge together. So, are they good with these skills? Yes, pretty much. But it, not necessarily for everything. For example, they might be digital natives. They're going to work with software. They're going to be pretty adept with software, but when it comes to hardware, perhaps not. They didn't have to plug in a modem or blow into a cartridge and these kinds of things. So, fun activities. Photo, jour vérifier. You must always verify. So photoshopping is a big deal, how to detect fake photos, how to understand algorithms. Those are very useful skills they can learn in secondary. And last question, do social media have a negative impact on the body image of teenagers? So we have positive, negative, small or big.
On va laisser quand même une trentaine de secondes, mais
We're going to leave about 30 seconds, but since time is running out, we'll have to cut it short. We only have 5 minutes left. So we're going to end right on time. Let's see about what the correct answer is. Yes, there's positive and negative impacts. You're good. So there's some positive and negative impacts on body image because we're at a point a little bit further on, and perhaps I would not have said the same answers a few years ago, but you'll understand why now in the next slides, and it's just as true for girls as boys. For the negative impacts, there's some body unsatisfaction, there's a distortion in the image of their body, a negative perception. They compare themselves to other girls. It's going to be an issue, especially for those who think that they're not as pretty as the others. And it also contributed to a lot of internalization about how thinness is important, but in boys, it's more about muscles. They really want a muscle body. And it can induce some eating disorders. And for boys, it could lead them to steroid use to increase muscle mass. And sometimes we want to blame the platforms, and it's not necessarily a bad reflex. However, there's some platforms which are conscious of this fact, such as Snapchat dysmorphia. So all these filters were removed in 2019 because of their negative effect on body image, just like the likes on Instagram. There's no more amount because farming likes had a negative impact on anxiety and body image. However, there's a bit of a nuanced impact here as well. If you briefly use social media, it doesn't have a negative effect on body image. They're more and more conscious, the youth, that the images have been manipulated because it's so obvious now that the images are manipulated and it's so well documented. So there's many accounts that compare manipulated photos to the regular ones. So it's so obvious that it's manipulated and modified and edited. So the fact that it is known and the fact that there's more place for body diversity on various accounts and body positivity accounts and so on. So it has some more nuanced impacts. And we have 2 minutes left. Quick, there's one activities at the secondary level here, And here we are before the room closes. We hope that we could interest you and that we gave you some great information as well. So if you go to the very last slide, you have a video here that you can listen to. And Melanie talks about how she worked with her sixth graders about these topics. And on the very last page, if you want to obtain your badge, here's the procedure. You can go on the campus.resi.qc.ca and then follow the procedure. Thank you everyone for having been here today. We could have spent the whole evening talking about this, however, because there's all the questions were answered, but please don't hesitate, send us a message if you want to go more in depth. Just raise your hand. Oh, thank you for your kind comments. Thank you, Jean-Pierre. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. So yes, the process to get your badge. If you want your badge, follow the procedure. Oh, I will put the link in the chat. Oh, I've got the link. Me too. Here you go. The link is in the chat. So thank you so much for having been here today. We wish you a great digital day in education. We hope to see you again. If you have any questions, shoot them up and have a great weekend. Rachel, a few activities in English. Yes, we want more activities in English as well.